Look at your hands right now. Not your palms, not your nails, just the shape of them. Because the same biological forces that decided whether your fingers are long or short, whether your wrists are narrow or thick, also decided something far more significant. They shape the architecture of your metabolism, your hormone profile, your cardiovascular risk, and the specific ways your body is most likely to fail you over the next 40 years. You have been walking around in this body your entire life, and almost nobody has ever told you what it's actually built to do, and what it's quietly terrible at. Here is what most people think about body types. They think it's a fitness concept, something from a 1990s magazine. Ectomorph, mesomorph, endomorph. Words that sound vaguely scientific but get reduced to skinny, muscular, and stocky, and then forgotten. But here's what nobody tells you. These categories aren't aesthetic labels. They are metabolic blueprints. They describe the specific way your body manages insulin, distributes cortisol, stores fat, and responds to physical stress. And that blueprint has real, documented, measurable consequences for how long you live and what kills you. The research is not subtle. A study tracking over 350,000 people published in the New England Journal of Medicine found that where and how your body stores fat, which is directly tied to your morphological type, is a stronger predictor of cardiovascular death than your total body weight. Not how much you weigh, how your body is shaped. Another analysis from the Annals of Internal Medicine showed that people with a specific fat distribution pattern had double the mortality risk of people with identical BMIs who stored fat differently. Same number on the scale. Completely different biological outcome. This is the part your annual physical is not designed to catch. And this is the part that changes everything. Let's start with the mechanism, because without it, none of the specifics will stick. Your body type is not random. It is the product of a hormone architecture you were born with, a specific ratio of testosterone to estrogen to cortisol to insulin sensitivity that was largely set before you took your first breath. Think of these hormones as a construction crew. Testosterone builds and maintains muscle. Cortisol mobilizes energy by breaking tissue down. Insulin is the key that unlocks your cells to receive glucose. And the ratio of these workers inside your body determines what gets built, what gets stored, and what gets demolished over time. Your visible shape is just the surface expression of that ratio. The real story is happening at the cellular level, invisibly, every single hour. Now, the person who looks naturally lean, what exercise science calls the ectomorphic pattern, tends to have a fast metabolic rate and low baseline insulin secretion. On the surface, this sounds like winning the genetic lottery. And in some ways it is. Ectomorphic individuals are statistically less likely to develop type 2 diabetes. Their cardiovascular system tends to carry less inflammatory burden from excess visceral fat. But here is the inversion. That same fast metabolism and low anabolic hormone profile means their bodies are structurally fragile in ways nobody talks about. Low bone density, reduced muscle mass as they age, and a dramatically higher risk of sarcopenic obesity, a condition where the person looks lean but is actually carrying a dangerously high ratio of fat to muscle because they never built a strong muscular foundation. A study published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition found that lean individuals with low muscle mass had higher all-cause mortality than overweight individuals with high muscle mass. Thin does not mean strong. And strong, it turns out, is what actually extends your life. The survival behavior for this body type is counterintuitive but urgent. Stop treating the gym like an aesthetic project and start treating it like a structural engineering problem. Resistance training, specifically progressive overload with compound movements, is not optional for the naturally lean person over 40. It is the mechanism that builds the muscle mass their hormone profile never pushed them to develop. Without it, the decade between 50 and 60 strips them of the physical reserve they need to survive illness, recover from surgery, and maintain independence. Protein intake matters too, not because of bodybuilding culture, but because ectomorphic metabolism burns through muscle protein faster than it should. Without deliberate dietary intervention, the body cannibalizes itself quietly and efficiently for years before anyone notices. The mesomorphic pattern, naturally muscular, responsive to training, able to gain and lose weight with relative ease, looks from the outside like an uncomplicated biological gift. And the cardiovascular baseline often is strong. Higher muscle mass improves insulin sensitivity, which lowers the chronic inflammation that drives most age-related disease. These individuals tend to have stronger bones and better hormonal resilience as they age. But the hidden danger inside the mesomorphic blueprint is behavioral, not biological. Because the body responds so readily to effort and because it recovers so efficiently from excess, these individuals tend to underestimate cumulative damage. They eat more aggressively because they can. They drink more because the physical consequence is less visible. They overtrain without adequate recovery because the body seems to absorb it. And the internal cost of all that accumulated excess shows up in their 50s and 60s in the form of hypertension, joint degeneration, and cardiac arrhythmias. Conditions that sneak up precisely because the body was so resilient for so long that no warning signal ever felt serious enough to act on. The survival behavior here is about calibration. The very responsiveness that is the mesomorphic gift becomes a liability when it's taken as permission. The cardiac system does not care how muscular you look. Chronic inflammation from overtraining is biologically identical to chronic inflammation from sedentary obesity. The source is different, but the damage pathway is the same. Regular monitoring of inflammatory markers, blood pressure, and cardiac function is not paranoia for this body type. It's maintenance on a high-performance engine that tends to run too hot. And then there is the endomorphic pattern. The body that stores fat easily, loses it slowly, and carries a higher ratio of adipose tissue relative to muscle. This is the body type that medicine has spent decades blaming, pathologizing, and misunderstanding. Here is what the biology actually says. Endomorphic individuals tend to have higher baseline insulin secretion and a more pronounced cortisol response to stress. Their cells are often less sensitive to insulin signal, not because of personal failure, but because of a cellular architecture that was set before birth and reinforced by every environmental signal they've encountered since. Fat in this body type doesn't distribute randomly. It concentrates viscerally, around the organs rather than just under the skin. And visceral fat is not passive storage. It is metabolically active tissue that produces inflammatory cytokines, disrupts hormonal signaling, and directly elevates the risk of cardiovascular disease, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, and certain cancers. A waist circumference over 35 inches in women and 40 inches in men is, according to the American Heart Association, a direct independent predictor of cardiovascular mortality. Not a warning sign, a predictor. But here is the part that changes the frame entirely. The endomorphic risk profile is not about weight. It is about where the weight lives. Research from the journal Obesity has shown that endomorphic individuals who carry fat peripherally in the hips, thighs, and lower body, rather than centrally, have cardiovascular profiles comparable to much leaner individuals. The shape matters more than the number. And the metabolic risk, while real and significant, responds dramatically to specific interventions that have nothing to do with crash dieting. Low-intensity, steady-state cardio, long walks, cycling, swimming, targets visceral fat specifically in a way that high-intensity training alone does not. Because this body type's cortisol response to intense exercise can actually trigger fat retention as a stress response. The very thing that looks like effort may be working against the biology. Slow, consistent movement plus targeted sleep improvement, because poor sleep spikes cortisol and cortisol drives visceral fat storage, is a more mechanically sound strategy than any protocol designed for a different body type and borrowed wholesale. Here is the part that most health content skips entirely. Every body type I've described is an adaptation, not a mistake, not a flaw in the design. Ectomorphic metabolism evolved in environments where food was unpredictable and movement was constant. Burning through resources efficiently was survival. Mesomorphic architecture evolved for acute physical demands, hunting, building, fighting, where explosive power and fast recovery were the difference between life and death. Endomorphic biology evolved for scarcity and cold, storing energy efficiently, surviving famine, enduring deprivation that would kill a faster metabolism in weeks. These blueprints were brilliant for the environments that shaped them. The mismatch, and this is the part that changes everything, is that we are running ancient biological software in a modern environment that those systems never encountered. An endomorphic metabolism that was perfect for surviving a Russian winter is being asked to navigate a world of ultra-processed food and 12-hour desk jobs. An endomorphic metabolism that was perfect for surviving a Russian winter is being asked to navigate a world of ultra-processed food and 12-hour desk jobs. An ectomorphic frame built for constant movement is being asked to maintain structural integrity in a body that walks 4,000 steps a day. The biology isn't broken. It's just in the wrong century. And this is where the knowledge becomes armor. Because once you understand the specific architecture you're working with, not the body you wish you had, not the body the fitness industry designed its programs for, but the actual mechanical reality of your specific system, you stop fighting against yourself. You stop doing the workout that works brilliantly for your friend's mesomorphic body and wondering why it doesn't work for yours. You stop eating the portion size that keeps the naturally lean person at the table from gaining weight and blaming your willpower when your insulin response is fundamentally different. You stop ignoring the joint pain and the cardiac irregularities because you've been strong your whole life and strong people don't need to worry. You are a specific machine with a specific design, a specific set of biological trade-offs that were made long before you were born. Some of those trade-offs favor you in ways you may never have acknowledged. Some of them are quietly working against you in ways your annual physical is not equipped to detect. But now you have the map. And the map is the most powerful health tool you will ever hold. Go to your doctor and ask not just what your weight is, but where your fat is distributed. Ask for a DEXA scan to measure your actual muscle-to-fat ratio. Ask for an inflammatory marker panel. Because the number on the scale is the least informative thing about your body. The architecture underneath it, that is what decides how long you live and how well. You were never just a body type, but your body type has always been a blueprint, and now you can read it.